Hello.
Now I see Leonard's still busy with the other people, even though she was supposed to be finished. I just saw a comment, the last comment. So she's probably coming out there over now.
Okay.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the session. My apologies for being late. I think we just got our wires crossed a little bit with the start times. Yeah, we should start at 11:30, but that's all right. We can start a little earlier because you were informed that the session starts at 11. It's just a bit difficult because I have another session that starts at 9 that goes till 10:30, and we went a little bit over time. So I apologize for the delay in my joining the session. Claudine or Sivu, if you're here, please can you make me presenter? Thank you. In the meantime, you can add your name to the register that's in the meeting chat while I wait for to be made presenter here. In the meantime, just as a start, thank you very much. In the meantime, just as a start, maybe just as a check-in, just to do a little bit of fun, you know, just to loosen up a bit. Maybe you can just in the chat, I'll ask the question, what is your emoji today? So if you could express how you're feeling using an emoji, post that emoji in the chat now. While I just get all of my documents together and that for the session. So the question to you is, what is your emoji today? And I'm going to turn my camera off. Okay. Thanks, Kylie. Okay. Ooh, some people are freaking out. Yeah. All right. We're just having a little bit of fun, just to get ready for the session. Just post an emoji in the chat as to how you are today. Okay. Keep your emojis coming. I'm going to load the presentation now. Oh, Pumza, shame you're not feeling well. All right, so let's get going. Okay, so welcome to the session today. This is part of a tutorial 2, which is part of a series of exam preparation sessions requested by the ENN1504 academics. So today we're going to focus on recording the minutes, just some housekeeping, which everyone at this point seems to be familiar with. Microphones muted, cameras off. Raise your hand, use the function of raising your hand if you have a question, or type your question in the meeting chat. Please add your student number to the register. using the link provided in the chat. And then if you're wanting, if you are not based in the Western Cape, and you're wanting the access to the recordings, please send an email to ct@unisa.ac.za asking them for how you can access these recordings. I know that there is talk amongst the academics to actually load the recordings onto the discussion portal in on my UNISA, but we record all of these sessions so that students can have access to them and access to the presentation notes, which I compile after the session, where I just select slides and I convert them to PDF and post those in the notes section. We also would like to invite you to complete the evaluation form at the end of the session, which is again your clicking on a link. So just an overview of what we're going to do today. We're going to be focusing specifically as part of our exam preparation, writing the minutes. You've already started checking in. What is your emoji today? So please keep those emojis coming. I look forward to seeing more of them in the meeting chat. So our objectives today is using the reading strategies when reading the background, transcript and instructions, and you'll see that this is building on last week, where last week we dealt with writing an email and a memo, and we spent a little bit of time. We started off last week by just familiarizing ourselves once again with those useful reading strategies that we can use when we read the background, the transcript, and the instructions of every single question. I can't emphasize this enough, because ultimately this module is not just about writing for business purposes. It's also about reading, and reading carefully so that you can extract the crucial information to ensure that you write, that you respond to the question as appropriately and as effectively as possible. At the end of the session, you're going to be able to plan a response to the minutes question by being able to identify the role players using the transcript provided to you in the minutes question, be able to identify the decisions in the transcript. Secondly, or rather thirdly, be able to use language and grammar correctly when writing the minutes. And here you must be able to use reported speech when writing minutes and be able to use the past tense when writing the minutes. So again, in keeping, just a reminder from last week, because this clarity of meaning follows throughout the module, you need to demonstrate your ability to use the qualities of good business writing, which consist of structure, conciseness, completeness, appropriateness, and accuracy. And your minutes and your email or memo and your report is assessed, it is marked according to these same criteria that you have to demonstrate in your writing. So the marker is looking for the structure of your minutes, is looking for the conciseness with which you wrote, is looking for the completeness and the appropriateness and the accuracy. So all of those elements must be present in your writing in order for you to write with clarity of meaning and for you to meet the assessment criteria for the module. So our writing skills, when we're writing skillfully, we are demonstrating our ability to write effectively, to save time, to ensure clear communication, to establish and preserve a professional image, and finally to contribute to our success as a professional in the workplace. So this module, I don't want you to see it as a standalone, once-off kind of thing. You are here to learn how to communicate at work. Some of you do this already in your work. You write emails every day. You are part of a team that writes reports. You might be called upon occasionally to write minutes, or it's one of the responsibilities of your job. So, for those of you who are not yet in this is coming to university first in order to learn about all of this, you are one day you're going to draw on these experiences. And so it's important that I embed within your understanding that writing at work is how we demonstrate our professionalism. Writing accurately, writing correctly, writing clearly is how we demonstrate our professionalism. It's not just about looking good. It's not just about wearing the right clothes and shoes and sunglasses and having the right phone. Those are superficial things. Your performance at work is going to be judged. One of the things that you will be judged for, or you will be assessed for at work, is going to be your ability to write and to write effectively. So let's jump right into the minutes. So the minutes of the meeting, it's a document that is created after a meeting has been conducted. And it's one of those documents that is required in terms of record keeping for any company, for any business, for any department you may find yourself in. Some minutes are written more formally than others. It just depends where you find yourself in the workplace. So this section of the module is to teach you how to write minutes, what minutes are all about, why we write it, when we write it, the way in which it needs to be written. So essentially what you're doing is you're taking the discussion or the conversation that was held in a boardroom, in a meeting room at work, and you're taking that spoken conversation or discussion, and you are changing it into a record of what was spoken about. And you will find details of this. I'll just stop sharing the presentation. And I will share with you. Apumza, I hope you feel better soon. I'll share with you the study guide and show you where to find all of this information. So in preparation for the exam, you need to go through study unit 2, which is all about the minutes. The sections that come before, if we go all the way up to the beginning here, all right, the notice and the agenda, what you need to do is read through this. Now, again, looking at your reading strategies, read through this, but you don't need to read it in order to recall this information. This is background information to inform you of what mere minutes are, what meetings are all about, why we have meetings at work. And this is particularly useful for those of you who are not yet in the workplace. If you have no work experience at this point in time, this is really, really useful for you to understand why we have meetings at work, all the different things that need to be discussed within a workplace, and just some background, contextual, situational guidance for you, who the chairperson is, who goes to these meetings, what the secretary's job is. It's usually the secretary who records the meeting. And often what happens, depending on the sophistication of the workplace, the secretary or the person who takes the minutes, that person will have note paper, pen and note paper, but sometimes the minutes are recorded using a recording device. It can be a cell phone, it can be especially sophisticated recording equipment that comes with the room. Sometimes your meetings will be held with different departments. I mean, these days, the days we've learned so much during this time of lockdown and social distancing where we're all working from home. I have just clicked the button in this Teams application to record this session. And so there are various ways that we can record the meeting. So the secretary will then play that recording back, and based on what is heard, will then transcribe what had been said into a written document. And there are certain things that you need to be aware of when you are writing the minutes. Now, the section that you need to read through and pay careful attention to is from 2.3 onwards. It's an official record that can be used to manage information, accountability, tasks, and time in an organization. When you record the minutes, your goal is to use language successfully to provide an instrument to management. And this instrument is going to be a record of the decisions that were taken. Minutes are useful to those whose responsibility it is to implement decisions when decisions have been made. Okay, so it's important that you pay attention to this. It's not a record of the general discussion. So this is a mistake that students make. It is not a record of the general discussion. So when you're given the transcript, it's not required of you to record everything that was said, because not everything is relevant to the purpose of the minutes. The purpose of the minutes is a record of who must do what, the date by which it's completed, and essentially it is a record of the decisions that were taken. That's essentially what the minutes is all about. So the language and the layout we're going to come to during the course of today's session. We're going to spend some time focusing on that, because that's another area that students struggle with. Full sentence must be used in the minutes, and you write in the past tense because the meetings have already taken place, and you use reported speech to record the person who has spoken in the meeting, to record what that person said. We don't record what they said directly. Now, don't get freaked out by this. You do this all the time in your conversations. As soon as you say to someone, "What did that person say the other day?" Then your friend tells you what that person said the other day, you are using reported speech. It's when you are reporting to another person what somebody else has said. This information here is also very useful as to how to write the dates if dates crop up. So you have those options. Pay attention to this bullet point also, because we use formal language and we use people's titles. So Mr., Ms., Mrs., and doctor or professor and advocate. We use those if that information is provided to us in the transcript. Now, what is the transcript? The transcript is the written out discussion in words. Let's show you here. This is an example of a transcript that you are given, the exact words written down. Okay, it's presented in the form of a dialogue. So this is the exact words written in text, what was said in the meeting. You have to take the transcript and assess what is of importance and what isn't, and you then have to do so using the correct language and the correct grammar and formats, etc. Do we have any questions so far? For the people who have just joined, welcome to the session. I am just going to copy the register and post it closer to where everybody is in the chat, so that you can add your student number and just complete the information required in the register. Thank you very much, everyone. Do we have any questions so far? Comments? Is there anything that any question that you bring to the session? Is there anything that you would like to, me to cover with regards to the minutes?
I have a question. My question is, when writing the minutes, is it necessary to write the name of the attendees?
No. And the reason I'm saying this, Peter, is that this is one of the areas where you would have lost marks in the assignment. Okay. And the reason I'm saying it's not necessary and is that in your instructions in your tutorial letter, and maybe I should just pull up the semester's tutorial letter. You were told to record the minutes of one item. You were not asked to record the minutes of the whole meeting. Okay, so it's really important that I'm just finding your assignments here. It's really important that you answer the question. And the question was really specific. So here we go. Minutes of the meeting. If you look at the instruction, it said here, write minutes of this discussion that covers only one item. Okay, this means that the complete format for minutes is not required. Begin your minutes with the following heading. So because of this comment here and them telling us that this discussion covers only one item of the full agenda, we do not need the full minutes. So if we were to go back to your study guide and we look at the example in your study guide of the minutes, okay, what you are being asked to do is ignore all of this, ignore everything else. Ignore it. You don't need to put the welcome, the attendance, all of those things. You don't need to write that, okay? All you're doing is you are minuting one item. So it would just be that particular item. And you'll be told what that item is as you were told in your tutorial letter here, okay? So does that answer your question, Peter? You can just give me an... Okay, all right, great. Thank you. So it's really, really important that you pay attention to what the instructions give you. Now, I know this was something that people struggled with because in my other sessions that I ran, I had the same question. And again, I want to reiterate, when you are asked to minute, when it says to you the complete format for minutes is not required, what it means is exactly what I've just done here. You do not need to provide this information at all. Your answer is going to look like this. Okay, so I've taken this, this is from a tutorial letter from last year, and this is what your minutes is going to look like. And you will see, it starts with the heading that was given in the instructions. There is no record here of the other bits. The stuff, the welcome, the present, the apologies, the attendance, all that kind of thing, the minutes of the previous meeting. All it's doing is minuting the part of the meeting that you were asked to minute. So I'm going on about this, and it was a good question that you asked, Peter, because it's really, really important for the exams. Okay, really, really important that you follow the instructions. Okay. Any other questions that you would like to ask at this stage before I carry on? If nothing comes to mind right now, then please go ahead and post your questions in the meeting chat. Okay, I do check in there all the time. For the people who have just joined us, please, in the meeting chat, you will find a link that will take you to the register. Please add your student number there. I see that Sivu, who is our technical support person, has also in the meeting chat posted the link for you to access the recording. So maybe you want to go and just check out that link and keep it in a safe place so that you know where to find the recordings. Okay. So it's a really important link for you so that you can access these recordings. And remember, all these resources are available to you during your exam. You can draw on these resources during the exam, together with your study guide and your tutorial letters and all of the other resources that your lecturers have posted on My UNISA. Just on that, yesterday or last night, Dr. Shandu, hello there, talk about, my goodness me, you've just joined. I was just about to tell the welcome. I was just see you popped up. Hello there, Tuli. And she's disappeared again. She had a fantastic presentation on feedback on assignment 2. So do yourself a favor and go and watch that presentation by Dr. Shandu and the team on giving you feedback on assignment 2, the report. So we next week will cover the report again, just as revision in time for the exam. But I must say, I sat in on it and it was great. There were practical examples and all that kind of thing. So please go and pay attention or have a look at the recording. Okay, Bongiwe, thank you for that comment. You had a hard time with it and now you understand. You misread the instructions. Yeah. And that's a common mistake that is made in the minutes, where students don't read the question properly. Okay, so Peter, you asked a really important question because it's brought back important elements of paying attention to the instructions where it says the complete format is not required. All right, so let me find my presentation. There we go. So remember, we are looking at the minutes of the meeting and we're looking at how do I approach this in the exam and what is really important when I'm recording the minutes. Now, we've already established that you're only going to be recording a part of the meeting. So you, through the transcript, you have been provided content, information in the background, and you have been provided information in the transcript. Remember, the transcript is a verbatim written record of what was said by all of the different people who attended that meeting. So you have to read the content really carefully in order for you to get a sense of what is the context here? What are they talking about? What is the situation? Where are they having this conversation? What's the name of the company? What's the background to the discussion? What's the background and the context for the decisions that they are making? So the content also includes the names of the people who are present in the meeting. What is their designation, if the designation has been provided? Sometimes the chairperson will be indicated in the transcript. And what also comes through in terms of the content for recording the minutes will be the names of the people who make proposals, who make suggestions, who make recommendations in the discussion. But then there are also people that you need to look out for who seconded, who agreed, who indicated, I think that's a great idea. I second that proposal. These are parts of the content that you need to be looking for in the background, and it will be definitely all of what I'm just talking about here. Who made the proposal, or who said I propose? So look out for words like that. And who seconded the proposal? That you will definitely find in the transcript. Then, in terms of your content, you need to make sure that you record the resolutions. The word resolution is just a technical term, a big word for the decision that was being made. What was resolved? Now, it's in your favor to record this decision correctly using the appropriate minutes terminology. Now, what do I mean by that? Let's go to your study guide on page 36, and you're going to find useful terms and vocabulary that you can use as a resource as you are writing your minutes. So let's just go and find our study guide. Okay, you will find it on pages 36 in your study guide to page 38, top of page 38. And it's in your interest to go and read through all of these, all this meeting terminology. So spend some time just reading and making sense of words such as adjournment. You can use this word if it comes up in your transcript. Remember, you are not required to minute the whole meeting. Now, usually the word adjournment refers to a postponement, or we'll come back to it, or we can adjourn the meeting, which means we're going to stop the meeting now. You won't necessarily have to refer to the closure of the meeting. And let me just put a line through this. I didn't mean to do that. Let me just do this. You won't have to provide this information in your minutes. Let's just strike through. We don't need that. We don't need this next meeting either, because remember, you are only minuting according to the instructions, and remember, you have to follow the instructions. If the instruction says one item only, that's all you're doing. So I just want to put lines through it. You won't need this, okay? And I'm going to the wrong page. Okay, so there's some useful terms here. Here's the chairperson, all right? When the meeting's ended, it said to have closed. You wouldn't use this because you're only minuting one item of the agenda. This is a really useful term, okay? So it's in your interest to use words like consensus. What does consensus mean? It means general agreement on a matter or point of discussion. It can also refer to everyone being in agreement. Okay, so here's another word that refers to something similar, which is the word unanimous. So if you see in the transcript that everybody's saying, oh, we all think that's a great idea, we all agree to the proposal, when you say there was unanimous or there was a unanimous decision taken, it means that everybody agrees, that everyone was in agreement to what was decided on. So using terms like unanimous, consensus, if there is someone who votes against something, if you use the word dissenting, that's what you're indicating to the reader, that there was a vote against a proposal. All right. What is a motion? It is a formal statement of what is proposed. It becomes a resolution, a motion becomes a resolution once the meeting has agreed to it. So knowing what a motion is really useful. Noted is something useful also. Okay. So pay attention to these this meeting terminology here, because you can score some nice marks here as far as your language goes. And we call this meeting terminology. Are there any questions or comments at this stage? Please feel free to use the meeting chat to post your questions. As you're aware by now, I refer to the chat often just to see if there's any activity there. So let's go back to us talking about the content. And now we've just finished talking about appropriate meeting terminology and just how useful your study guide is. For examples of this meeting terminology. Now you'll see content, structure, style, and register. Okay, so let's just go back a couple of slides. All of this falls underneath your qualities of good writing, but you are also marked here. Okay, under your assessment criteria, the same components are used. So this is why I'm breaking it down into content, structure, style, and register. So we've covered content with regards to recording the minutes. Now let's have a look at the structure. The structure is really straightforward. All you've got to do is use paragraphing. So I'm suggesting to you that in your first paragraph, you set the scene, you provide the context, some kind of context in terms of and where you're going to get that information from. You'll gather that information from your background and some from your context. So in your background, you'll be given names like the name of the company. You'll maybe even be given like a summary of what they discussed. Depends on what is presented to you in the background, but it's your responsibility to read it really carefully. I like to use the analogy of being like a miner, where you are wanting to find the nuggets of gold. In other words, the crucial information that is relevant to my task. And in this instance, your task is recording the minutes. So what information is relevant to recording the minutes? The remaining paragraph or paragraphs will consist of a summary of the discussion and the decisions that were taken, the decisions that are related to the discussion. You're going to find that in the transcript, there will be information that is irrelevant to your minutes. And this is the nature of meetings. If you think about your having sat in meetings in the past, how much of what we talk about in a meeting is really according to the purpose for our meeting? So often you will find that the chairperson, whose job it is to manage the meeting so that everybody stays on track and keeps focused on your reason for being there, and we are here to discuss this item, so let's not go off track. That's the job of the chairperson. And it's the job of the chairperson to draw people's attention to, okay, somebody's proposed something there, do I have a seconder? So the chairperson is an important person for you to pay attention to when you're reading the transcript. So often you're going to find in the transcript, there are going to be sections that you can just put a line through because it's really irrelevant. And I'll show you some examples in a minute. Another element of recording the minutes that's really, really important that we often struggle with is that of the language. Okay, now I've already pointed out the value of using the appropriate minutes terminology, but what is sometimes very challenging is being aware of writing in the past tense and being aware of using reported speech. So I'm going to look at some examples, show you some examples of using reported speech and writing in the past tense in a few moments. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to give you an activity and I'm going to show you a former feedback tutorial letter, and I want you to read the actual minutes. Then I want you to establish and identify 4 things for me. And I'm going to give you some time because it's going to take you a moment to, it's going to take you some time to work it out because it needs careful reading. I would like you to establish the context of the meeting. What is the background to the meeting, if anything? What is happening here? What is the purpose of this meeting? Secondly, I want you to name the chairperson and I want you to name the other role players of relevance. Okay? Then I want to see if you can identify content that is relevant to the decisions. And lastly, I would like you to identify the resolutions. In other words, what were the decisions that were taken? Now, because I can't share 2 screens with you simultaneously, I'm going to stop sharing the presentation, but I will copy and paste these questions into the meeting chat, and then I'm going to share with you the text that I'd like you to read. So, let me do this first. So in the meeting chat, I have now copied and pasted the 4 questions or aspects I would like you to identify or establish. You'll find that in the meeting chat, those 4 things. Then I'm going to now share an example of what your minutes will look like. And I want you to be like a miner or be like an investigator. And I want you to read this example of a section of a meeting that has been minuted. And I want you to find the 4 aspects that I've posted in the chat. I want you to find that in this example here. If you have any questions, please post them in the meeting chat or unmute your microphone and ask the question. Does everyone understand what needs to be done? Can I just have an indication that people have understood with a yes or a no or a thumbs up in the chat so that I will then mute my microphone so that you hear. Thanks, Kailetu, so that you can have some quiet, so that you don't hear my sipping water, etc. So can I then assume that everyone understands what needs to be done? Okay, so I'm now going to mute my microphone and I'm going to give you about 10 to 15 minutes of reading time to go and mine. Be like, I'm sorry, I didn't say. Please post your responses in the meeting chat. Just go number 1 and your answer, number 2 and your answer, number 3 and your answer, number 4 and your answer, as best you can. It doesn't have to be full sentences. It can just be key points or key words, just for the purposes of this exercise. It's now 4 minutes past 12. I will check back in with you by 10 past. And then again just before 15:15. So it's 12:10. How's it going? Can we see what you've come up with in the chat? And if you're stuck with any one of those, just answer what you can, what you have established or identified. I mean, I think number 2 is probably the easiest. And for number 1, you can just tell me which paragraph do you find that information in. I'll check in with you again in about 3 minutes' time. All right, hi. I realized that I had not unmuted my microphone, so that's great. So, who'd like to tell us which paragraph are we? The answer will be paragraph 1, 2, or 3 for number 1. What is the context of the meeting? Paragraph 1, paragraph 2, or paragraph 3? Where is that information found? Anybody? Who'd like to tell us who's the chairperson and who are the other role players in this meeting? You can unmute your microphone or you can. All right, Kailetu. Yes, so paragraph 1 gives us a sense of the context of the meeting. All right. So who's the chairperson? What is the name of the chairperson? And the other role players, the other important people in this meeting. Yes. The chairperson is Mr. Malloy. Yes, well done. The meeting was a quarterly meeting of the Committee of Disclosed Corporation, the UCACC. Yeah. Okay. Who else is important? What other role player is important in this meeting? Kayaletu, a male-dominated committee. Why? Yeah. Okay. Look, I will leave that to Dr. Shandu to ponder on. Yeah, the chairperson is Mr. Malloy, Mr. Kuzwayo is the treasurer, Mr. Hlongwane, Mr. Rikotse, Mr. Dube, and Mr. Mukuna. Yeah, the treasurer, yes, is important. Yeah. Yeah, we need to, I like your comment, Kailetu, we need to be inclusive. We're the women. But that's not the purpose. That's not why we're here. Let's not become distracted now. All right. We can have that conversation offline. Okay, so great stuff. You are identifying the role players, okay, that you're finding in this. You're being that miner or the investigator, going to find, using your magnifying glass and finding out all of this. Now, who wants to give us just the discussion content relevant to the decisions? Or even just name one of the resolutions or the resolution as you found in the minutes here. Thank you, Tapili. I see your answer. Anybody want to talk about numbers 3 and number 4? Dr. Shandu, you can jump in if you want. Tabile saying.
Hi, Lynn.
Hello. Hi there.
And hi, everybody. Thank you, for participating.
Yeah.
I'm intrigued by the observation of the male-dominated meeting, but what if the meeting had men and women, but it's only men who commented more and made observations? That is something to ponder.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Fortunately, we're not looking at the transcript because maybe in the transcript there were women present. You know, They were.
Okay, but that's just by the way. Thank you for that observation. Yeah, I'm really glad that Lynn, you are pointing our students to the study guide, because the one area of improvement that we just need to keep emphasizing is for our students to refer to the study guide. I know that it's tempting to say, I know English, and I know that it's tempting to say, I've attended a few meetings in my time, and I know that meetings are, minutes are just a report of the meeting. But if we stick to the study guide and we check how to write minutes, then we will be on the right track. So I like that you keep pointing our students to the study guide. It is important to mind the language of the meetings, the language of the minutes, to say, in as much as we want formal English and we want formal style, students gather marks when they use the language of minutes, resolution, who supported emotion and all those things. So that just says to the marker or the lecturer that this student has gone through the study guide and this student understands the language of minutes. And another thing that I thought I should just remind our students is to use the third person when they report. Third person, and the third person being the meeting itself. The meeting decided, or it was decided, because I see quite a few instances of we decided, or that kind of thing. So you can use the third person, the meeting, or it was decided, or the chairperson decided this. And finally, please have an introductory part. It could be a sentence, it could be I know earlier, Lynn, you referred to a paragraph, an introductory paragraph. You have to introduce your minutes, the chairperson, Mrs. So-and-so, introduced the item on, or the chairperson requested the financial manager to table, that kind of thing. So we need that introductory section to the minutes. I know that it's tempting to just get into it and say, Ms. So-and-so suggested, Mrs. So-and-so suggested, but create that context by introducing the agenda item. Thank you very much, Lynn.
Thank you. I've just, I'm still sharing the screen of the example, and I've just posted a comment on that actual document too, and highlighted the first sentence, and pointing out to you, ladies and gentlemen, that this is an example of an introductory paragraph, even though it is just one sentence, but it introduces the item to be discussed. Okay, are there any comments or questions at this stage? Okay, all right. So thank you everyone for being such active participants, and I'm just conscious of time, and we are supposed to end at 12:30, but can we just go a little bit, just spend 10 minutes over that, considering that I arrived late because of the time confusion. So if you don't mind, if I just, carry on just past until about 22, if you don't mind, just that I can cover as much as possible as I had planned, if that's okay. Okay, so we were talking, I want to spend a little bit of time just pointing out the importance of the language. So Tuli's commented on that. And again, I'm going to point you to your study guide, but I just want to pull up this one slide that I've got here for you. And that is specifically the language of the minutes. Okay, and again, look at your study guide on pages 33 to 36, where we write in the past tense. okay, because the meeting has already taken place. We write in reported speech because what we're doing is we're changing the language that was spoken into reporting on the discussion that happened. And we do that by using the past tense, and in reported speech, to indicate the change in the tense, in the time, we always take one step back in time. We also change words that indicate time and place. So, for example, yesterday will become the day before. Next month will become something else. So, let me just show you how that works in I'll show you how it works in an example. And we're going to go back to that example that I had on the screen earlier. Okay, so if you look at words such as reported, that's in the past tense. The treasurer was concerned. Was concerned. He found it difficult. He suggested. All right. It was agreed. And again, that's a good example there of writing in the third person. It was agreed. Mr. Hlongwane seconded the motion and the report was adopted, writing in the past tense. I also want to draw your attention to some hints. Use interesting reporting verbs, so doing words. So for example, Mr. Kuzwaya reported. He suggested, further suggested. Mr. Mukuna recommended. Those are all interesting reporting words just to introduce some variation instead of just saying said, stated. Okay? These words carry a little bit more meaning in terms of there's a difference between stated and recommended. So what Mr. Makuna is doing is he's saying that the team should be under the leadership of the treasurer, but by us reporting that Mr. Makuna recommended, it is more than just a statement, it is a suggestion. Okay, because the word recommended, it means here comes a suggestion. And so to go to your study guide, again, just to look at language, okay, and writing in the past tense. Look at your study guide, contains examples of writing in the past tense. So if Mr. James is saying, I am responsible for gathering quotes, we are going to report on what Mr. James said, and we are going to write it as follows. Mr. James said that he was responsible for gathering quotes. Now, throw your mind back to when you were at school and how you had to write in the past tense and how you had to write in reported speech. The CEO in the transcript says, I have been to 5 meetings. Okay. In reported speech, it would be the CEO said that he had or she had been to 5 meetings. Mr. Zulu said, in the transcript, we're going to have the secretary has been working very hard to get the minutes out on time. Mr. Zulu, in the meeting, it will be reported that the secretary had been working very hard. Okay, so we change the word has to had been. I wrote the minutes. She said that she had written the minutes. So these are great examples for you to just get a sense of the past tense and reported speech. Very important. So expressions of time and place. Yesterday becomes the day before. Tomorrow becomes the next day. I would like the meeting to discuss this now. The chairperson said that she would like the meeting to discuss the item then. Now becomes then. And then, of course, I already pointed out this meeting terminology to you. All right. Okay, thanks for that. I like the variation in reporting verbs, yes. So I have another document that I found where just to give you some more variation. Okay. In terms of the variations in verbs. So when you go back to the recording, I'm going to leave this up on the screen so that in future you can have the recording, but I will also post it in the notes section in the same place, or it's a similar place where you'll find the recording. So for example, words like commented, okay, word like advised, if something is being advised, explained. These are, it makes your minutes, it gives a depth of meaning to your minutes, as opposed to just saying said, stated. All right, so these are lovely verbs that you can use to provide variation, but also to give more directed meaning to whatever the speaker communicated during the discussion. Are there any questions or comments at this stage? So I'm going to go back to the presentation. All right, so we've spoken about language of the minutes. So let's just talk about approaching the exam question. All right, you are going to have access to this exam from the 23rd of October. The first thing you need to do is read your background carefully, because it gives you context to the meeting. But not only will you find context in the background, you will also find it in the transcript. So that means you have to read the transcript carefully. Select with pen or pencil, okay? Make notes of information that is relevant, that gives background to the decisions. Underline, circle the name of the chairperson, because you would have to use this in your minutes. The names of the proposers, the names of the seconders. Identify the decisions made, and remember, follow the instructions. Record one agenda item. I just want to show you an example very quickly of, to go back to our example. Of this example here, okay? So this is what your answer is going to look like, but this is a result of this discussion here. So I went and highlighted, for example, if you were reading through what it could look like as you were reading through and how you could highlight information for yourself. And I've shown you enough times how you can highlight something and then just, use your marking tool to highlight if you're doing it on the screen. Otherwise, if you have a printer, print out the question or print out the transcript and then write on it to highlight it. So have a look here at how much of, as I said earlier, much of the discussion won't be relevant to the minutes, won't be relevant to what you need to record as your answer, okay? So if you look at Mr. Malloy, who's the chairperson, Mr. Ravoni says something here, and then Mr. Malloy, the chairperson, tries to get people back on track and says, your comments will create more drama. The next speaker must stick to the discussion at hand. Mr. Hlongwane, you are recognized, which means, Mr. Hlongwane, you can go ahead now and address and talk to us. So I'm going to just put a line through this because irrelevant, okay? All of what I have highlighted that I'm highlighting here also is irrelevant to the actual crux of the matter, okay? So what I've highlighted, however, in yellow over here is relevant to the meeting, I suggest we keep all the receipts and submit them to the treasurer on time. Now, if you go to the answer, you'll see here that people were grumbling a little bit, but look at how it was summarized, despite the concerns and complaints raised by other members of the team. This section of the sentence is a summary of the discussion that preceded the agreement that was reached, where the receipts had to be submitted to the treasurer on time for record purposes. So I just wanted to point that out to you, how you are able to summarize information in the minutes. So let's go back then to the presentation so that we on the downward towards the end of today's session. So we're talking about approaching the exam question and doing all of these good things when we are sitting with our question in front of us. Not forgetting that we must pay attention to content, structure, style, register, irrespective of which document we are generating, be it minutes, be it email, memo, or even a report. All of these elements must be contained within our business writing. Formal language and vocabulary, grammar, spelling, punctuation, writing politely or courteously. So just a last heads up of how to prepare for the exam on your own. Read your study guide units 1, 2, and 3. Study guide unit 1 deals with email and memo. Okay. Number 2, minutes of the meeting. Number 3, report writing. Do the activities in learning units 1, 2, and 3. Now the learning units they are in your workbook. I'm not sure whether you would have received it or whether it can be downloaded. You'll find it on My UNISA under your official learning material tab. So work through those units. Read your tutorial letters. You should be receiving, there may not be actual tutorial letters, but I know, and Dr. Shandu beat me out, I don't know whether it was uploaded as yet, but I referred to the fantastic session you had yesterday, the report, rather the feedback session you had, that live session you had last night on the report. So it's really important, go and pay attention, look at the announcements, check to see where the link is to watch the recordings of those sessions. It might not be a document you can download, it might be a session you can watch where there's a PowerPoint presentation and the lecturers are explaining to you, giving you feedback on the various areas of this module. Practice using the past papers. There are a few past papers on My UNISA, and use the workbook. I'm going to just pull up the workbook because I know that students don't really use the workbook. You're probably thinking, what am I supposed to do with this? But let me show you just how useful the workbook is. Okay, thanks. So the presentation will be under the additional resources. So let's go back to the study guide. No, not the study guide. That's the study guide, Tutorial Letter 101. I had the workbook. Okay, I'm just conscious of the time now and I don't want to take up your time. But have a look at your workbook. You will find that in your workbook, there is useful information, more examples, activities that you can practice, okay? And there are even exam preparation sections for you in your workbook. So make use of the resources together with the additional resources under additional resources on My UNISA. So we've come to the end of the presentation, so I'll open up the floor now for any questions that you have at this stage. Any comments or any questions? Anything you would like to ask Dr. Shandu who is still here with us. Dr. Shandu is your primary lecturer for this module. She's here today, so ask your questions, post your questions so that she can respond. Kailetu, you're saying you're all good. All right, great. Comments and questions? Okay. All right, so as a checkout. Okay, all right. Okay, everybody, it seems okay. Thanks, I see your comments, Bongiwe and Peter. All right, so in the meeting chat, I have posted the link that will take you to the evaluation form that we need you to complete for the session today. Thank you very much for your feedback. I would like to hear from you just more immediately than the feedback that you're going to put into the document. Can you please tell me one thing that you're taking away from today's session that was all about writing minutes? Just one thing that stood out for you today on writing the minutes. You can put it in the meeting chat, please. Thanks from Durban. Great stuff. So what's one thing that stood out for you from today's? To carefully read the instructions. Yes, absolutely. Anything else? Thank you, Bongiwe. So I'm just going to turn my camera back on so that you can see me and see I'm a real person and not a robot. Kailetu is saying to use reported speech and past tense. Great. Yeah, it's fantastic. Minutes always written in the past tense and we use reported speech. Thank you for that. Any last comments before we say goodbye and go off to relax and enjoy our weekend? Using the meeting terminology. Dr. Shandi Tuli, go ahead. You have a question? You want to make a comment?
Thank you
Go
so
ahead.
much. Yes, thank you so much, Lynn. I think my comment is related to what Kyla just said, the issue of using the past tense and reported speech. Just to emphasize that in as much as we use the reported speech and the past tense, we need to remember to summarize key discussion areas and resolution, because as we were marking assignment 1, we found, sorry about that noise, I'm on the road.
Okay.
Yeah, as we were marking assignment 1, we noted that some students were submitting a sentence by sentence reported speech. So
Okay.
yes, we want the reported speech, but not a sentence by sentence reported speech or a sentence by sentence past tense reflection of the meeting. So I promise you, we had scripts where from top to bottom, the chairperson said, Mr. Mzola said, Mrs. Shandu said, you know, that's not what we want. It's just, I think I was reminded just because of the comment that was made about the reported speech. Thank you so much, Lynn.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you for that feedback. It's really valuable to be reminded of that. And I think being shown what the actual answer looks like also just visually helps you to see that it's not a line by line item in terms of what your answer looks like. It's a summary of the discussion. It is writing in reported speech, and it is using the past tense. So, ladies and gentlemen, Peter's saying, I understand where to find and the content and the relevance of the meeting. So on that note, I'm going to end the session today. Thank you so much for attending. Be on the lookout for an email inviting you to the next session. I am going to be running a session in the week coming, so that I can have 4 sessions, because the next session we're going to cover the report, and then there's another section that I also want to cover. So be on the lookout for an invitation to these tutorials. One of the sessions will be an evening in the week, but check your My Life email account for that session information, date and time. So all the best, ladies and gentlemen. I say goodbye to you. Enjoy the rest of the weekend, and I'll see you shortly. Take care and stay safe.